The Great Galactic War had stretched across star systems for nearly a decade. At its core was an uneasy alliance between humanity and the Veckrith Empire, ancient. Imposing alien species known for their disciplined warriors and advanced technology. Together, they had faced a terrifying common enemy, the Obsidian Swarm, a relentless hive mind species that consumed everything in its path. For years, human and Veckrith fleets fought side by side, sharing technology, intelligence, and strategies. Their victories had been hard-fought, with each battle forging a deeper bond between the two races. Yet, beneath the surface of camaraderie, suspicion lingered. Admiral Lara Tanis, commander of the human fleet, had always been cautious. She knew the stakes were too high for blind trust. But even she could not have foreseen the betrayal that would change everything. The turning point came in the last days of the war, as the Obsidian Swarm retreated into the dark edges of the galaxy. Human colonies, stretched thin and vulnerable, became easy targets not for the Swarm, but for the Veckrith. Without warning, the Veckrith unleashed a devastating strike. They turned their weapons on the very colonies they had sworn to protect, seizing key outposts and cutting off vital supply lines. Communications from these worlds went dark. Panic and confusion spread through the human ranks. "Admiral, we have incoming transmissions from the Ryloth sector. Veckrith forces have seized control," reported Captain Rila Dane. Voice steady despite the grim news. Lara's jaw tightened as she absorbed the information. "This is a betrayal," she said quietly. "They betrayed us in war." News came. In waves, reports of coordinated attacks, sabotage, and occupied colonies. The Veckrith had not only abandoned humanity, they had actively worked to weaken it. In the command center of the flagship Retribution, Lara gathered her officers. The room was tense, every face marked by disbelief and anger. "How could they?" Lieutenant Corrin demanded. "We fought alongside them, shared our most guarded tactics and technology." Lara's eyes were hard but clear. They saw us as a threat. With the Obsidian Swarm retreating, the Veckrith want to claim dominance over the galaxy, and humanity stands in their way. Betrayal ignited a fire in the hearts of humans everywhere. What had been a war for survival turned into a fight for justice and reclamation. Human leaders convened emergency councils, rallying what remained of their fleets. Scientists worked around the clock to develop new weapon systems and defensive technologies. The Retribution, once a symbol of joint human-Veckrith cooperation, was retrofitted with the latest human engineering, becoming a beacon of hope and resilience. Amid the chaos, Lara made a vow. "We will not fall. We will not be broken by their treachery. We will reclaim every world, every star, every piece of what is ours." Messages of solidarity poured in from human colonies and independent factions. Stories of sacrifice and resistance spread across communication channels. The betrayal, instead of crushing humanity, had forged a sharper edge. But the path ahead would be difficult. The Veckrith held strategic positions deep in space, their fleets well-equipped and entrenched. And worse still, some factions within humanity questioned whether reconciliation might still be possible, or if vengeance would only lead to further destruction. Lara refused to entertain doubt. She rallied her commanders, emphasizing unity and determination. "Our ancestors survived through war and peace. Now it is our turn. We fight not just for survival, but for honor." As the Retribution prepared to depart for its first campaign of reclaiming lost colonies, Lara stood on the bridge, gazing at the stars. Each one represented a home lost, a life disrupted, and a future to be won. The betrayal had shattered the alliance, but it had also ignited a war for justice, one that humanity would fight with every ounce of strength. The stars would bear witness to a new chapter, one where humanity, betrayed but unbroken, rose from the ashes to seize everything the Veckrith had taken. The ruins of humanity's once sprawling frontier worlds still burned beneath cold stars, a harsh reminder of the Vekroth betrayal. But the fires that consumed colonies only fueled human resolve. Now, with renewed purpose, humanity was forging a future stronger than ever before. At the heart of this resurgence stood the Retribution, a warship unlike any other. More than a symbol of human ingenuity, it was a fortress of hope, designed to dominate battlefields and reclaim what was lost. Admiral Lara Tanis paced the shipyard's command center on Earth's orbital station. She watched technicians and engineers swarm the massive hull, fitting the ship with the latest in human weaponry and defenses. Every detail reflected a lesson learned from betrayal and war. "Status report," Lara demanded as she turned to Commander Jacques Moraine, her chief engineer. "The Retribution's energy matrix is online, running at full capacity," Jacques replied. With a nod, "Our new plasma cannons can deliver precision strikes beyond any enemy range. The stealth systems are calibrated for deep infiltration missions. It's a perfect balance of offense and defense." Lara's expression softened slightly. "Perfect. This ship will be the spearhead of our reclamation. The Vekroth won't see it coming." Beside her, Communications Officer Rila Dane tapped her console, projecting images of lost colonies and occupied worlds. "Our intelligence suggests that many of the captured outposts are lightly defended. The Vekroth are spreading thin, overconfident." After their initial strike, Lara's gaze hardened. "Then we'll strike fast and hit hard. We take back our worlds one by one." Over the next weeks, the human fleet gathered around the Retribution. Pilots ran simulations, crew drilled tirelessly, and strategists mapped out the first campaign targets. Each member of the crew carried the weight of betrayal, but also the promise of redemption in the mess hall. Crew members shared stories, some of lost homes, others of narrow escapes during the initial Vekroth betrayal. These stories weren't just memories. They were the fire that bound them together. "You know," said Lieutenant Karavos, a sharp-eyed pilot, "when I was a kid, I used to listen to stories about the great human fleet, how we survived against impossible odds." "Now it's our turn to add to that legacy," replied Engineer Tomariz, his voice steady despite the tension. Lara overheard the conversation as she passed by. She smiled quietly, knowing that the crew's spirit was the Retribution's true power. The first mission was a test of both ship and crew, reclaiming the colony world of Ardent Reach, a once thriving mining hub, now under Vekroth occupation. Its recapture would disrupt the enemy's resource chain and boost human morale. As the Retribution slipped through space towards Ardent Reach, Lara gathered her officers in the command deck. "This mission will be our first strike against the betrayal. We have the element of surprise," she explained, her voice calm and resolute. "Our goal is to seize the primary command center and signal our allies to move in. No civilian casualties. This is about taking back what's ours, not needless destruction." The plan was daring. A small strike team would infiltrate the planet's surface using stealth pods, while the Retribution provided orbital support to hold off Vekroth reinforcements. The descent into Ardent Reach's atmosphere was tense. The strike pods pierced through clouds and evaded patrol drones, landing just beyond the perimeter of the enemy base. Lara's strike team moved silently through ruined streets, their every step echoing with the memory of lives disrupted. Inside the enemy command center, the Vekroth were caught off guard. The human assault was swift and coordinated, disabling communications and seizing control points. When the orbital bombardment began, the remaining enemy forces found themselves trapped between two fronts. Hours later, with the base secured, Lara's communications officer transmitted a broadcast across the colony network. "Ardent Reach has been liberated," Rila announced. "This is humanity reclaiming what was taken. We stand united and unbroken." From the bridge of the Retribution, Lara watched as signals of resistance flared across nearby worlds. The message was clear: humanity had returned, but the road ahead was long and fraught with danger. The Vekrith would not relinquish their spoils easily. Still, the first time since the betrayal, hope was no longer just a distant dream. It was a plan in motion. The liberation of Ardent Reach sent ripples across the galaxy. It was a spark that reignited hope in human hearts and alarm in the ranks of the Vekroth Empire. But Admiral Lara Tanis knew well that reclaiming a single colony was only the beginning. To topple the Vekroth's grip on the stars, humanity needed more than courage and firepower, it needed allies. In the weeks following the Ardent Reach victory, Lara embarked on a mission that was as diplomatic as it was strategic. The betrayal had fractured the fragile alliances of the past, and many alien factions, once cowed by Vekroth's dominance, now sought a new path. They needed a leader who could unite their scattered resistance and humanity's unwavering determination made Lara the natural choice. Her first stop was the moon of Velkar, home to the Xantaria species of fierce warriors and skilled tacticians. The Xantari had been forced into uneasy submission by the Vekroth, their once proud fleets reduced to shadows. The council chamber was a cavernous space lit by ambient blue light, with towering Xantari elders seated around a massive stone table. Lara stood firm, her uniform crisp, her presence commanding respect despite being the youngest leader in recent human history. "You come to us with promises of alliance," said Elder Nath, his voice a gravelly growl. "Why should we trust humans? The Vekroth have broken their word to you. What makes you different?" Lara met his gaze steadily. "Because we fight not just for ourselves, but for every species crushed under their rule. We offer not dominance, but partnership. Together, we can overthrow the empire that betrayed us all." Her words struck a chord. The council's debate was fierce, but by the end, the Xantar agreed to join the growing coalition next. Lara traveled to the orbital station of Thalzin, where the Sirena race of peaceful traders and diplomats held sway over vital trade routes. The Saren had remained neutral during the Great Galactic War, fearing reprisals from both sides. In a quiet conference room filled with holographic star charts, Lara outlined the coalition's vision. "We don't seek conquest," she emphasized. "We seek justice. The Vekroth betrayed trust, and now they threaten every civilization's future. Our alliance offers safety, shared resources, and a chance to reclaim your freedom." The Saren leaders deliberated carefully. The risk was great, but so was the opportunity. By the time Lara left, the Saren had pledged their support, opening trade routes and providing crucial intelligence on Vekroth movements. Back aboard the Retribution, news of these alliances bolstered the crew's spirits. Communications Officer Rila Dane coordinated constant updates from new allies, weaving together a web of resistance that spanned systems. Yet not all responses were hopeful. Some factions, still fearing the might of the Vekroth, hesitated or outright refused to join. Others remained loyal to the Empire, convinced humanity's uprising would fail. But Lara welcomed every new partner, no matter how small, knowing that unity was humanity's greatest weapon. As the coalition expanded, so did its ambitions. Plans formed to strike deeper into Vekroth space, targeting supply lines, communications hubs, and occupied colonies. Each victory would weaken the Empire and strengthen the Alliance's resolve. One evening, in the quiet of the bridge, Lara reviewed reports from the front lines. Images of liberated towns, grateful civilians, and captured enemy ships filled the screens. "Every world we free," Lara said softly to Commander Jox Moran, "is a step closer to ending this war." Jox nodded. "The Vekroth didn't expect us to unite. Their arrogance will be their downfall." Lara smiled faintly. Then let's make sure they learn that lesson well. But amid growing strength, shadows lingered. Unknown to Lara, spies and saboteurs lurked within the coalition. Some human factions, still haunted by fear and old grudges, whispered of surrender and secret deals with the Vekroth. Lara's advisors warned her, but the Admiral refused to let doubt divide them. Instead, she vowed to root out betrayal and keep the coalition strong. "We fight with honor," she told her officers, "and we do not let betrayal live in our ranks." As the stars shimmered beyond the Retribution's viewports, humanity's new allies rallied, ready to stand shoulder to shoulder in the coming battles. The galaxy was waking to a new dawn, one born from betrayal but destined for justice. And through it all, Admiral Lara Tanis led with unwavering conviction, steering humanity and its allies toward a future where no empire could betray them again. The liberation of Ardent, Reach, and the growing coalition of allies bolstered humanity's resolve, but the Vekroth Empire still held vast territories, their grip on key resources fueling their war machine. To turn the tide decisively, Admiral Lara Tanis knew they had to cut off those resources at their source. The target was Draxon Prime, a heavily fortified mining world rich in rare minerals critical for Vekroth shipbuilding and weapon systems. Losing Draxon Prime would cripple the enemy's ability to replenish its fleets and buy humanity. Precious time to regroup and expand the coalition, gathered in the Retribution's command deck. Lara outlined the plan to her officers. Holomap projections hovered above the table, showing Draxon Prime's mountainous terrain and sprawling industrial complexes guarded by swarms of automated defenses and Vekroth patrols. "The planet's defenses are formidable," Lara said, voice calm but resolute. "Direct assault would be suicide. We need precision and stealth." Commander Jox Moran nodded. "Our strike teams have developed new cloaking tech for the pods. We can infiltrate key facilities undetected, disable defenses from within, and open the way for orbital bombardment." Communications Officer Rila Dane added, "We've intercepted Vekroth supply convoys en route to Draxon Prime. Cutting those off simultaneously could create chaos and thin their ground forces." Lara's eyes scanned the room. "This is our chance to deal a blow that will echo across the Empire. We take Draxon Prime, and we send a message. Humanity's retaliation is not mercy, it's justice." The Retribution slipped silently through Draxon Prime's upper atmosphere under cover of darkness. Strike pods, cloaked and ready, detached from the ship and descended into the planet's rugged landscape. On the ground, Lara's elite teams moved swiftly through twisting tunnels and industrial complexes, bypassing patrols and disabling sensors with practiced efficiency. Every step forward was a test of nerve. Every mission-critical dot inside the central processing plant. Lieutenant Karavas and her team faced their toughest challenge yet, an automated defense core designed to vaporize intruders. Using a combination of hacking expertise and tactical cover, they managed to override the system, shutting down the planet's primary defense grid. Back on the surface, explosions rocked supply depots and fuel stores as coordinated sabotage missions hit multiple targets simultaneously. Vekroth forces scrambled to respond, but confusion reigned as communication lines went dark. From orbit, the Retribution launched precision plasma strikes on key enemy positions now exposed by the strike teams. The blasts were surgical and devastating, dismantling weapon emplacements and command bunkers without harming civilian areas. "Target destroyed," came Rila's steady voice over comms. "Enemy reinforcements are retreating or surrendering." On board, Lara watched the battle unfold on the main view screen. The planet's night sky lit up with bursts of plasma fire and explosions. But the human and allied forces held the advantage. "This is what we've trained for," Lara told her officers. "We fight with precision, purpose, and unity." As the dust settled, news came in of Veckrath commanders captured or fleeing. Supply lines severed, and industrial output at Draxon Prime brought to a grinding halt. The victory sent shockwaves through the Veckrath Empire. Their war machine, once seemingly unstoppable, was now vulnerable. In the aftermath, Lara broadcast a message to the galaxy. Draxon Prime stands free once again. Let this victory be a beacon to all who suffer under tyranny. Humanity and its allies will reclaim every world stolen by betrayal. The coalition cheered, their spirits lifted by the hard-won success. Yet Lara knew the battle was far from over. Behind closed doors, she and her commanders reviewed intelligence reports of enemy fleet movements. The Veckrath were regrouping, preparing for a counterstrike that could threaten everything humanity had built. But the retribution was ready. That night, as stars glittered beyond the ship's windows, Lara stood alone on the bridge, thinking of the world still in darkness, the families displaced, and the long road ahead. The resource strike had been a turning point, a testament to human resolve and ingenuity. It was proof that even in the face of betrayal, unity and courage could topple empires. Lara's voice was steady when she spoke to herself. They betrayed us in war. But now we are seizing everything they own. And she meant every word. The triumph at Draxon Prime was a decisive victory, but with it came new dangers lurking in the shadows. As the coalition's strength grew, so too did the Veckrath's desperation. Their empire was vast, filled with cunning spies, and ruthless. Commanders who would stop at nothing to crush the human uprising. Admiral Lara. Tanis knew the war was no longer just fought with plasma cannons and starships. It was a battle for trust, for loyalty within her own ranks. Betrayal was a poison that could unravel everything. Back on the Retribution, tension simmered beneath the surface. Rumors of secret dealings and mysterious sabotage circulated among the crew. Supplies had been delayed, vital communications interfered with, and an attack simulation had gone disastrously wrong. Lara called an emergency meeting with her senior officers. "We face enemies without and within," she began, voice firm. "But we will root out these shadows, no matter the cost. Our unity is our strength." Commander Jacques Morin nodded. "Our engineers are investigating anomalies in the ship's systems. We suspect a cyber intrusion." Communications Officer Rila Dane added, "I've detected encrypted transmissions coming from within the Coalition fleet signals that don't match any known ally." Lara's gaze hardened. "Then we have traitors in our midst. Begin a full security sweep. Every crew member, every allied ship." The investigation uncovered subtle sabotage, a hacked navigation system that nearly led the Retribution into an ambush. Altered supply manifests and suspicious disappearances among the support crew. Worse still, intercepted communications revealed a clandestine alliance between a faction of humans disgruntled by the ongoing war and Veckrath operatives. They sought to broker a secret peace that would betray the Coalition's cause. Lara confronted the Council of Human Factions. "Some among us would trade our future for temporary safety," she said, her voice echoing in the chamber. "We will not allow betrayal to cripple our fight for freedom." She ordered arrests and security trials. It was a painful necessity, but a reminder that vigilance was vital. Meanwhile, the Veckrath capitalized on the chaos. Fleet Admiral Kaiser, the ruthless Veckrath commander, launched a surprise offensive aimed at recapturing lost territories and breaking the Coalition's momentum. The Retribution received urgent alerts as enemy ships appeared near the liberated systems. Lara swiftly organized her fleet. "This is the moment we prove our resolve," she said. "We fight not just for ourselves, but for every star system longing for freedom." The battle was fierce and unrelenting. Human and allied ships moved with precision. their combined tactics offsetting the Vecrith's raw power. In the midst of the conflict, Lara's strike teams uncovered another sinister threat, a Vecrith plot to deploy bioweapons on civilian colonies to force surrender. The news hardened her resolve. "We must act fast," she told her commanders. "Protect the innocent. Destroy these weapons before they're unleashed." Covert operations targeted secret Vecrith labs, with human and Xantari operatives working side by side to dismantle the bioweapons network. Amid the chaos, Lara found a brief moment of reflection with her close confidant, Pilot Kara Voss. "We fight ghosts as much as soldiers," Kara said quietly, eyes scanning the stars. Lara nodded. "Trust is fragile, but it's what keeps us human. Without it, we lose everything." The coalition survived the Vecroth's onslaught, but the cost was high. The war was no longer just a battle of ships, it was a test of loyalty, courage, and the will to endure. As the retribution prepared for the next phase, Lara vowed to hold the coalition together, no matter the shadows threatening to tear it apart. The betrayal had come once, but humanity's answer was clear. Unity forged in fire would not be broken. The shadows of deceit had been confronted, but the cost weighed heavily on Admiral Lara Tanis and her coalition. Yet, amidst the turmoil, a new hope was stirring. The tides of war were shifting, and humanity's relentless spirit was beginning to reshape the galaxy's future. The victory at Draxon Prime, coupled with the thwarting of the Vecroth's bioweapon plot and the elimination of internal traitors, had emboldened the coalition. Word spread across occupied systems humanity was no longer the underdog. They were a force that would not be ignored. To capitalize on this momentum, Lara convened a strategic summit aboard the Retribution. Representatives from the Xantari, Siren, and other allied races gathered in the ship's war room, their faces illuminated by holographic star charts. "The Vecrith have regrouped," Lara began, "but their morale is faltering. Supply lines are disrupted, and their leadership is fractured. Now is the time to strike where it hurts most. Their capital world, Vecroth Prime." The room fell silent. Vecroth Prime was a fortress, the heart of the Empire's power, tacking. It directly was suicide unless the coalition could exploit the cracks in the Empire's defenses. Jox Marone leaned forward. "Our intelligence suggests dissent among the Vecroth governors. If we can support uprisings within the capital, we could divide their forces and create openings for our fleet." Lara nodded. "We'll coordinate with internal resistance cells and launch simultaneous assaults, both from within and outside." Meanwhile, behind the scenes, human operatives worked tirelessly to send messages of hope and rebellion to oppressed Vecroth citizens. It was a risky gamble, but cracks were appearing in the Empire's armor. In a hidden chamber beneath Vecroth Prime, whispers of revolution began to take shape. Dissidents who had long suffered under the Empire's iron rule saw a chance for change. As the Retribution and its fleet advanced toward Vecroth Prime, tension thickened. The Empire deployed massive defense arrays and scrambled their best fleets to intercept the invaders. The battle for the capital was brutal. Plasma fire streaked across the void as starships clashed in a deadly dance of strategy and survival. Coalition forces leveraged every advantage: coordinated strikes, nimble maneuvers, and the element of surprise from internal uprisings. Amid the chaos, Lara's command was unyielding. "Hold the line, protect the resistance cells. We fight not just for victory, but for freedom." On the planet's surface, uprisings erupted in the capital city's districts. Xantari shock troops landed alongside human insurgents, engaging Vecroth enforcers in fierce street battles. The Siren used their diplomatic skills to sway wavering factions. It was a war on multiple fronts, sky and ground, fleet and street. As the days dragged on, cracks appeared in the Empire's unity. Governor Malrek, a once loyal Vecroth official, openly declared support for the rebellion. His defection sent shockwaves through the Empire's command. His betrayal will inspire others, Lara said grimly. We must act swiftly. The climax came when the Coalition's flagship, the Retribution, led a daring assault on the Imperial Palace's orbital defenses. Jacques Moran piloted a squadron through with expert precision, disabling the shield generators and opening the way for ground forces inside the palace. Lara faced the brutal truth of war, seeing the faces of those who once believed in the Empire, now broken and desperate. Yet, she held to her conviction. We fight not for vengeance, but to build a future where betrayal can never rule. When Vecroth Prime finally fell, it was not just a military victory, it was a revolution. The Empire's grip shattered, replaced by a fragile but hopeful coalition of former enemies, now united by a shared vision. In the aftermath, as Lara stood overlooking the city from the palace balcony, she reflected on the journey. They betrayed us in war, she whispered. But together, we seized everything. They owned and everything they lost. The fall of Vecroth Prime marked the end of an era, but it was only the beginning of a new and uncertain chapter. The once mighty empire lay in ruins, its vast territories fractured and its people reeling from the shock of defeat. For Admiral Lara Tennis and the Coalition, the task now was to turn victory into lasting peace. The war room aboard the Retribution buzzed with activity. Commanders, diplomats, and strategists gathered around as holographic maps displayed the shifting political landscape. We've dismantled the Empire's core. Lara addressed the group, her tone resolute. But power vacuums breed chaos. We must establish governance and rebuild trust, otherwise the cycle of betrayal will continue. The representatives of the allied races nodded. Zantari diplomat Vesher spoke. We propose forming the Interstellar Council and Assembly, representing all liberated worlds to guide reconstruction and ensure peace. Karavas, Lara's trusted pilot and confidant, added, We'll need joint security forces to maintain order and prevent warlords or remnants from exploiting the chaos. Meanwhile, on Vecroth Prime itself, the city streets pulsed with life and unrest. Former Imperial citizens grappled with their new reality, some eager for change, others bitter and fearful. Lara visited the capital's central square, accompanied by a small security detail. She addressed a crowd of thousands who had gathered, hopeful yet wary. We stand here not as conquerors, but as partners, she said, voice carrying across the plaza. Together, we will build a future where betrayal is not our legacy, but a lesson learned. The crowd responded with cautious cheers, their expressions a mix of relief and uncertainty. Yet the road to peace was not smooth. Across the liberated systems, pockets of resistance persisted. Former Imperial loyalists, distrustful of humanity and the Coalition, launched guerrilla attacks and sabotage. Lara and her commanders coordinated swift responses to these threats, balancing firm security measures with efforts to address grievances fueling the unrest. In a quiet moment aboard the Retribution, Lara confided in Jacques Moran. This war changed everything, she said, staring out at the stars. We won the battles, but now we face the harder fight, winning hearts and minds. Jacques nodded. We gave them a choice, chaos or cooperation. Now it's up to us to make sure they choose wisely. Elsewhere, scientists and engineers began repurposing Vecroth technologies for peaceful uses. Medical advancements, once reserved for military applications, were adapted to heal and rebuild communities devastated by war. Humanity's drive to innovate, even after conflict, became a beacon of hope. As months passed, the Interstellar Council took shape. Representatives from diverse species debated, negotiated, drafted agreements to ensure fair resource distribution, mutual defense, and cultural respect. It was fragile progress, but progress nonetheless. However, not all welcomed the new order. A shadowy faction, calling themselves the True Empire, emerged from the ruins, determined to restore the old regime through any means necessary. Lara received intelligence reports warning of their secretive operations, smuggling arms, recruiting disillusioned soldiers, and planning coordinated strikes. Recognizing the danger, Lara convened an emergency summit. "We cannot allow the past to rise from the ashes," she declared. "The True Empire threatens everything we fought for. We must root them out before they ignite a new war." The coalition mobilized special forces to track and dismantle the faction's networks, operating with precision and discretion. One night, standing on the Retribution's observation deck, Lara reflected on the journey. They had faced betrayal and war, seized what was once lost, and forged a new path from the darkness. But the battle for peace demanded as much courage as the fight for survival. Her gaze lifted to the stars, bright and infinite. "The Empire betrayed us," she whispered. But humanity's answer was more than war. It was hope, resilience, and the will to build a better future. The struggle against the remnants of the True Empire was fierce but brief. Coalition forces, united and vigilant, dismantled their operations with precision, striking at hidden bases and intercepting insurgent fleets. The shadowy faction that once threatened to plunge the galaxy back into darkness was reduced to whispers on the wind. Admiral Lara Tanis stood on the bridge of the Retribution, the symbol of humanity's resilience and determination. The war was over, or at least the battles for control had ceased. Now came the most vital mission of all: peace. The newly formed Interstellar Council gathered for its first official assembly on the neutral station of Ardent Reach. Delegates from dozens of species and worlds filled the chamber, voices weaving a tapestry of hope, compromise, and determination. Lara addressed the assembly with measured confidence. "Today, we begin not just a new chapter for humanity, but for the galaxy. As a whole, we have seized what was lost, not out of greed or vengeance, but to reclaim justice and freedom." She paused, letting her words settle. "Our shared future depends on trust, cooperation, and the courage to confront our darkest moments. We must remember the cost of betrayal and ensure it never defines us again." The chamber erupted in applause, a moment of unity shining brightly amid the scars of war back on Earth. Humanity celebrated. Cities lit the night sky with jubilant fireworks, and broadcast shared stories of sacrifice, courage, and renewal. For the first time in generations, the people felt the weight of hope. Lara's messages were relayed across the globe, inspiring a generation to believe that peace was not just possible, but inevitable. Yet, the galaxy was vast, and healing would take time. Reconstruction teams worked tirelessly to rebuild devastated worlds, while diplomatic missions sought to reconcile old grievances. Cultural exchanges blossomed as former enemies found common ground through art, music, and shared stories. The scars of war remained, but the wounds began to heal. One evening, aboard the Retribution, Lara met with Kara Voss and Jacques Morone in the observation lounge. The three friends reflected on the journey the battles fought, the betrayals endured, and the victories won. Kara smiled softly. Who would have thought an overlooked warship and a ragtag crew could change the course of history? Jacques laughed. Quietly, it wasn't just the ship or the crew. It was humanity's refusal to give up. Lara nodded, eyes shining, and the belief that even in the darkest times, light can emerge. The Retribution received a new mission directive, not of war, but of exploration and diplomacy. The galaxy still held mysteries and uncharted worlds ripe for discovery. As the ship prepared to depart Ardent Reach, Lara stood once more on the bridge, gazing into the endless expanse. After 20,000 years of silence, she murmured, "Humanities, Ancient Ship has returned not to conquer, but to connect. To build bridges where once there were walls. The stars beyond shimmered, eternal and infinite. The war had tested humanity's resolve. But it had also revealed a truth deeper than any weapon or strategy. In unity, there was strength. In forgiveness, there was freedom. And in hope, there was a new dawn.